Life takes unexpected turns, doesn't it? Our expectations simply don't pan out. I've often said you can hear God laugh. All you have to do is wait for me to announce my plans. One parishioner told me she worried about everything as it was her insurance policy. Because anything she worried about would never happen. There were just those things she never thought to worry about, and those did. We plan for a future, but what comes around does not match up to our expectations or our plans. We even find that what we were hoping for is not actually what fulfills us. As the song says, life is what happens while you're busy making other plans. When life throws a curveball, how do we respond? Change propels us into grief. And grief is no simple thing to process. Grief takes time. It takes effort. It takes wrapping our minds around new realities. It takes recognizing how life has changed and adapting to those changes. In this process, it is common that we attempt to revert to what we have known. We want to go back. We want some semblance of what we used to have, what we consider normal, safe, expected, secure. Though we cannot recreate what used to be, we can get closer to it sometimes by going back to actions of the past, reliving them, and find rest and comfort in those reminders of our past. We talk about comfort food, which is part of the same thing, isn't it? We latch on to what reminds us of a former time, a former setting, a sense of the known, seeking some kind of security in things of another place, another time, another reality. It's a child carrying around their security blanket full of the smells of the known, a continued connection to what may no longer be. If we're not careful, we fall into nostalgia as a trap, trying to reconstruct what can never come back and what will never be as it once was. I can speak fondly of childhood experiences that hold special places in my life journey. It's often tempting to go back and recreate them, but they cannot be recreated. Too much has changed in the intervening years. Life, its normal processes have shifted. In so many little ways, it is impossible to catalog them all. I remember going fishing with my uncle or my granddaddy. Fond memories, full of meaning for me. I no longer have access to their john boats, their fishing tackle, even the same bodies of water, much less my uncle or grandfather. Even the fish in the water have changed. The bait we used may no longer be available. The table in the woods with its sink and running water where we would clean our catch is no longer there. I would be the adult in the boat, not the child along for the ride. Try as I might, there is no going back to what used to be nearly half a century ago. The disciples were grieving a lot of loss. They grieved the loss of a slew of expectations around who and what Messiah was, what Messiah was meant to and should be. They grieved broken understandings regarding God's reign. They grieved the structure of their lives that had come to revolve around following Jesus, listening to his preaching and supporting his ongoing ministry of healing and teaching. They grieved the loss of having Jesus in their midst daily. They grieved his death, even while they were struggling to grasp this new reality of his resurrection that they had heard of, that they had seen evidence of more than once already. Peter decided to step back to what had kept them busy before Jesus had first come along in their lives. The others decided to go along, and several of them went fishing. They still had access to the family boats and tackle. They struck out as they had done a few short years before. They hardly needed to recreate a scene long past. In the context of great leaps of technological process of our lived reality, they took to their known fishing craft and let out into known waters, finding comfort in a return to what used to be normal. They stepped back into a time when life made sense, when they had a clearer idea of what to expect, when routine could take over and make tasks keep their hands busy and reflection on life's deeper concerns become simply an option that did not overtake and overcome them. They worked the boat, the net, the lines. They worked the sail and settled back into the comfort of known routines. Then as morning came around, they heard a voice on the shore asking if they had caught anything. When they replied no, the one on shore told them to cast their nets on the other side of the boat. It's a strange comment. One that they had heard once, 3 years before. They complied, and the nets filled with a huge catch. John made the connections with the first time Jesus had told them to let down their nets for a big catch, when they had toiled all night and caught nothing. He spoke up. "It's the Master." Peter immediately swam to shore. When the others arrived in the boat with the nets full of big fish, Jesus fed them fish and bread. As they ate, rather much in stunned silence, it would seem. Fishing had lost its luster. It had no hold on them with the intervening years with Jesus in the middle. John tells us they knew who he was, but it would appear they did not know that from his physical appearance, though he does not fill in the details for us. But we recognize the words. We recognize the actions. We understand they are in Jesus' presence. But how that worked out lies beyond John's description here. Jesus is here, but not the way that they had known him. He was somehow recognizable, And yet there was a lot of unknown in the context. They had seen him die. They knew of his burial. They had seen him appear to them twice and heard of his appearing to others. He manifested himself in some kind of body, though it did not follow the same rules that they knew. He could appear inside a closed room, eat fish, cook breakfast. He could call them to shore. He could communicate with them at 100 yards off the beach. Even so, this was not Jesus as they had known him. Once they had eaten, Jesus addressed Peter 3 times with a simple question. Do you love me? It's a bit more complex than that. However, as John's Greek tells us, Jesus asked twice about Peter loving him, while Peter answers as caring for Jesus, a word for brotherly love. The third time around, however, Jesus asked Peter if he cares for him. While Peter answers as caring for Jesus, in a recognition that he cannot meet Jesus at the degree or quality of love in the original question. Not long ago, Peter had denied Jesus 3 times. But Jesus here gives him 3 chances to rectify and change that denial. Not with any condition, not with condemnation, simply with grace. The last night they had been together, Peter had first of all declared his love and resolute affirmation to be true to Jesus to the death. Then when life threw an unexpected turn, he denied Jesus amid his uncertainty of what was happening, how it was happening, what it could possibly mean. After a couple weeks now to process, Peter had determined he could no longer make such brash declarations of an undying love as he had before. He didn't know how he would respond before the unexpected. Jesus did not simply ask him about his dedication, his love, his commitment to follow him, however. He issued to Peter again a task. A task he had actually given him before, though in different words. Feed my lambs. Tend my sheep. Feed my sheep. This task was also foreshadowed on that same night Peter had denied Jesus. Jesus had told him of his upcoming denial and added, when you have come back to yourself, strengthen your siblings. There's work to be done. A mission to accomplish. Much more than grieving any failure, sin, or shortcoming. There's a point to reviewing our past. We learn from our mistakes. We do good to do that. To dwell on them, however, is often a distraction from life that lies before us. Peter could have returned to fishing as before, but it would never be as it once had been. That train had long departed. Jesus was calling him into uncharted territory, a new role with the same mission as before. He called him to trust in Jesus' presence, forgiveness, grace, love. Is that too difficult a thing for us to do? There is no going back. We can't recreate something that no longer is. As much as we might want to. But there is a path forward. Will we take up Jesus' call to Peter? Follow me.